Hey, what's up everybody? This is Mr. 008 here, and today I have for you a video regarding update 41 of Bloons Tower Defense 6. So in this update we have some cool stuff to go over, including the new sub-Paragon, the Nautic Siege Core. So I was going to upload a sneak peek video of this tower, I believe either yesterday or 2 days ago I was going to upload it. However, my recording software was giving me a bit of a problem, as was YouTube, therefore I was not able to put out that content on time. That said, I am glad to make a video about the update now that it is out, and I can share some more information with you guys. P.S. I did not get early access, and I don't want it to sound like that's what I was trying to say. Just in case my wording may have implied that. I was looking at the preview video from Ninja Kiwi, and I was going to react to that in a video. That said, because of technical difficulties, as I said, I could not get that out. But here we are with the update right here, right now. The Nautic Siege Core is in the game, and it has some nice mechanics that I will show you guys soon in this video. Also a new intermediate map, Sulphur Springs, and teaming up against any boss on any map with co-op boss challenge. That's nice. New map editor props, paths, areas, and functionality, plus new quests, trophy store items, QOL improvements, and balance changes, including 2 that are very nice. One being that on Apocalypse mode you will now get cash at the end of every round, at least $100 to help you out. That way the game mode is less challenging. And also on Chimps mode, if you lose, you will not be forced to restart the whole game anymore. Instead, you can just hit retry last round, and you will be able to retry from there for free, no monkey money required. That said, you will not be able to get the black border, only the gold border if you use that. So let's get into a game and start using this sub-Paragon. Alright, so we are ready to get into a game here on Frozen Over. We're just using, or rather playing on medium difficulty, just some standard stuff, nothing too fancy. And let's go ahead and get a dart and a sub right here and start the game. So I definitely do want to do some farming for the purpose of getting a high degree Paragon and also getting one rather early. So let's go ahead and work towards that. So in this update, there are some other cool features that I would like to talk about, including some new stuff for the map editor, some new packs, I think, including a spring pack, if I recall correctly, from when I read the patch notes. And you can purchase that using either real money through an in-app purchase or monkey money, and it's not expensive to use monkey money for that. It's only like, I want to say between 5,000 and 7,000 monkey money or so. Speaking of which, as of this version of the game, Geraldo now costs 7,000 monkey money instead of 5,000 to unlock. So that will be a little bit more of a challenge to save up for newer players. That said, it's still not that hard if you can beat enough maps and get some daily rewards and all that stuff to use to your advantage. So, speaking of this map, before I get back to the update, this map reminds me a little bit of a news story that I saw recently. I'm not sure how many people other than me know about this, but I'm pretty sure it was fairly widely reported, not like in the mainstream media per se, but still it was widely reported in other forms of media, I heard, and that's that there was this group of 13 orcas, otherwise known as killer whales. Despite the fact that they are not whales, but rather dolphins, they're known as killer whales due to a translation mistake from another language. I want to say it's German, I'm not certain though, but the correct pronunciation would have been killer of whales, rather than killer whales. But, getting back to this story, there were 13 of them that were trapped, to where they were able to hold their heads out of the water to breathe, but they weren't able to move, really. And that was because of these icebergs that were surrounding them, and there was no wind to cause the icebergs to drift, so to speak. So because they were not drifting like they were supposed to, the orcas were stuck there, basically. And there was a debate online about whether humans should be interfering to rescue them or not. And some people were saying humans should not interfere due to survival of the fittest, but others were saying humans should interfere to help the orcas due to the fact that human-made conditions or human-influenced conditions may have caused that to happen in the first place, because of how the environment and climate have been abnormally changing in recent times. But yeah, that's basically how that was as far as the debate is concerned surrounding that. And I find it interesting because I can see points from both sides being logical. But the good news is the debate is no longer necessary to have due to the fact that the orcas managed to free themselves, from what I've heard. So that's nice that they are able to continue to find food and migrate and function as a pod once again. So we do have camo detection with Soda, and at first I was like, we may need to upgrade our Dark Monkey or something, but we did not need to at that moment. So let's just keep on farming. I am going to be rather aggressive with my farming because I want to get the sub-Paragon as soon as possible. So let's continue working towards that. So there was something else I wanted to bring up regarding the update. But before I get to that, we will need some lead popping power. Soda's ability, it can handle the leads. That said, it's not something that's like a long-term fix. So let's see what we want to get. So let's use this right here. There we go. And I'm thinking an alchemist for now, just to provide support to our current towers and all of that. So let's continue with our farming and all of that. And in regards to this update, there were some interesting balance changes as well. I noticed that a lot of towers were changed in regards to what types of balloons they can pop. For example, the Super Maelstrom can no longer pop lead balloons. The 5th tier Phoenix from the Middle Path Wizard can no longer pop purples. And I believe that the grapes, the flaming grapes from the planes, the mini aces for the 520 carrier flagship can no longer pop purples either, because they were changed to be recognized as fire damage rather than normal damage. And normal type means you can pop everything and have no weakness, but they are no longer like that anymore, unfortunately. That said, I have heard that, and I do believe this to an extent as well, that it's good to crack down on the power creep in the game, because there are a lot of towers just getting stronger and stronger, and it's making things just become too easy in a sense, for certain like game modes and whatnot. And I can understand why Ninja Kiwi wants to go about things in the game in that way, but that said, it's not good when it gets out of control to the point where things just get too easy. That said, there are some things that I can't do in the game that I would like to be able to do. For example, beating X Factor on chimps, because I've tried that time and again, and even when I copy other people's strategies, something seems to go wrong every time. So, yeah, and that, to be honest, that map is one of my least favorites, and I wish it was never added to the game. And I honestly prefer maps like,
Good choice.
Dark Castle and Infernal and other maps like that, which are on the easier end for expert maps, and a lot of people have said that those should be advanced rather than expert. But even other maps like hard end advanced maps that could arguably be expert, like Geared or Mesa or other maps like that, just aren't as bad, if you ask me. So, let's go ahead and use that, and let me know what you guys think regarding if you think certain maps should be modified in terms of their in-game difficulty to better reflect how difficult they actually are to beat, and things like that. So, I think I'm going to cut the video here because I don't want the final product to be too long or to have people get bored over time. So I will be back as soon as I get fairly close to being able to afford the Paragon, once I have steady, like 6-digit income and all of that. So I will see you guys again soon. Okay, so we're back, and for demonstration purposes, let me show you that we do not have enough cash just yet to max out on the power of this sub-Paragon, and hopefully we will get a good degree. Like, 40 plus would be satisfactory, but 60 plus would be really nice, so that's what I'm going to aim for. I'm not going to go for degree 76 or anything crazy like that, because we would need to farm pops past like round 140 probably just to get that, so I don't think that's necessary or worthwhile. So let's just see again, and I'll keep checking. I'll check again once we get to like $1.2 million or so, and I will show you guys the strength of the sub-Paragon and how it can buff other towers when submerged. Keep note though, it cannot buff a lot of different types of towers. It only buffs other subs when submerged, as well as heroes, and they have to be in range. That's why I chose the placement I did for Soda at the beginning of this game. So we will see how things play out with this tower. And from what I've seen, from gameplay I've seen, it's usually not worth it to submerge. That said, if you get other Paragons, then things won't be as bad, because it can still pop like Moabs or so, but not much more than that if it's submerged. But we will have to see how things end up going and how strong this buff ends up being, especially for Soda in this case. And we do have a perma brew to help out as well. So let's go ahead and take a look at the cash slider now. It's still not maxed out, so let's keep on going. So there are some other balance changes I wanted to talk about in this update, and I will be making a video for those balance changes separately as well to demonstrate them and all of that, and provide my feedback in more detail. But the Spiker Bolt, for example, is the same strength as it was before against ceramics in particular, but its spiked balls will now deal 2 damage instead of 1, just like those of the Juggernaut. So you will only need a 3rd tier in order to get the 2 damage spikes. So that's pretty interesting, and I'm eager to see how that plays out if Spikopults are all of a sudden OP, but we'll have to see. I mean, technically they're twice as powerful as before, except for being the same strength as before against ceramics, so you'll still need the 4th tier for extra ceramic popping power. And then there's some price changes as well, like the laser cannon is cheaper, the plasma accelerator is more expensive, and the Moab Assassin and Moab Eliminator are a little bit more pricey now as well. So we'll have to see how that plays out. Sky Shredder, I want to say, was made slightly more expensive if I recall correctly. Let me see what its price is. 38,250. That's weird. I thought we were playing in medium mode, in which case it should show what would be the normal price. So that's a little weird, because I am pretty sure that this is medium. Just like from the Super Monkey, for example, being $2,500. If it was easy, it would be $2,125, hard $2,700, and so on. So I'm not sure why the Sky Shredder has that price. My apologies for that sudden cut there in the recording. So I don't know exactly what went wrong, but I did see a message saying that a screen recording was saved to photos, so that's how I knew that it stopped recording there. But I did use that as an opportunity to check the balance changes in the patch notes, and it says that the Sky Shredder was increased from 41,500 to 42,500 in price. So if anyone knows why it says 38,250 there, even though we're on medium difficulty, please let me know in the comments, but I've never really run into that as an issue before. So let's go ahead and keep going here, and hopefully we can max this out as soon as possible. So, okay, there we go. We have 1.768 million, and the maximum we can spend here is 1.66 million. So let's go ahead and get this new Paragon right there, degree 79, nice. So I believe that may be the maximum we can get, and I'm going to save these sharpshooters just for intel purposes, because notice if I sell there, the sub-Paragon cannot attack at the beginning of the map anymore, at least outside of when we have those automatic preemptive strikes there, which is a nice attack for this tower. So let's go ahead and see. So I don't know exactly what Soda's DPS is in her current state, but let's go ahead and get Jungle Drums right there. And we do not need an MIB because her enchanted blades at higher levels, I believe it's level 17 plus, someone correct me if I'm wrong, will pop all bloom types on their own. So let's go ahead and submerge this tower right here. Speaking of which, that reminds me of another change in the update. And that is that not only does the submerge have a different function, but you also submerge your towers, your subs specifically, differently than before. So you have to put it back on attack mode due to the fact that the submerge is really weak, and the buff isn't that good, if I'm being completely honest. It's just not worth not being able to have much attack power from elsewhere, unless you have other Paragons, of course. But I think this buff should be able to either apply screen-wide, no matter where on the map your other subs or your hero are, or keep it in range but allow it to apply to other tower types as well. So something like that would be nice. And I'll also demonstrate how this ability works, called the Final Strike, once, let's say, round 140 comes around. And we will see how that works, because I've seen it in some other YouTubers' videos, as well as from the Ninja Kiwi dev update video that Sam was demonstrating how this tower works in. So we will get to that pretty soon. So our tower is now at over 10 million pops, and it's got some good damage, if I'm being completely honest. There's no real ways to buff it. That said, maybe a Buccaneer Paragon would buff it, I don't know. But let's just keep going with the sub Paragon alone for now, and maybe I'll get a Buccaneer Paragon for supportive purposes in the near future, but let's just keep going for now. So there is one suggestion I would like to make to Ninja Kiwi for a future update, because if you can use retry last round for free in Chimps mode, I think you should be able to use it in other game modes as well. So let's check this ability. Notice how the sub does not attack anymore, whether submerged or unsubmerged. It does not attack while the ability is charging up. Takes 15 seconds, but it deals a lot of damage, and then there's that nuclear waste on the track that does deal some damage of its own over time, and it does end up disappearing at the end of the round there. Not sure if it's because the round ended or not. Something makes me say that is why, due to the fact that it disappeared as soon as the round ended, but that could also be coincidental. So let's keep going here and see what we can do with this tower and see how far we can get. So, getting back to my suggestion though for Ninja Kiwi, I think you should be able to use retry last round in any game mode. I mean, maybe not in the challenge editor, but in any game mode, just in single player, whether you're playing easy, standard, or chimps, or half cash, or anything else like that. If you lose on a round, you should be able to restart the round for free. No cash injection, no life injection, just restart the round such that you're in the same situation as you were at the start of the round that you lost on. So you're not getting anything for free, you're not getting handouts, you just get to retry the round. Nothing else. So no cost, but no benefit other than just convenience. So I think that that should be in the game, because I don't like wasting monkey money on continues, especially when usually when I lose, it's not because of being short on cash or short on lives. It's just due to me thinking my defense can handle a round and it ends up not being able to. And that usually happens when I'm saving money for farms and whatnot. And so yeah, situations like that where I want to save, but sometimes I have to get something else, which can happen in chimps, obviously, just not with the farming part. But yeah, that is something that I wish would be added to the game. So, I'm not sure how much damage these deal. Let's see, the preemptive strikes. I can't tell, but I want to say it's maybe anywhere from 1,000 to a couple thousand. I think it's 3,000 per bloon, judging by what I saw at the beginning of this round, or like a wave of bloons within the round. I didn't really see whether it was the start
Clean
of the round
cuts
or not.
and still cuts
So
the tomato.
there are plenty of explosions here, so it looks like the sub-Paragon shoots both darts and ballistic missiles, except instead of shooting the missiles into the sky and then raining back down onto the balloons, it just shoots them straight out because of those explosions. Unless the darts and missiles are combined into the same projectiles. Not sure if that's the case, but either way, it's a cool tower. I just think that the submerge part needs a buff or a rework in some capacity, since it usually ends up not being for the better. But in case I forgot to say this earlier when I started to like redirect what I was talking about, notice how the submerge button is like that. You can just tap it instead of having to switch between first, last, close, strong, and it goes the same for a sub here. You can just tap the button and it unsubmerges. Change the targeting right there in any way you would like. Submerge, and when you come back up again, it remembers that you had it on close right there, for example. It does not automatically set it back to first or whatever. It remembers what you set it to before. So that can be helpful as well. So I think what I'm going to do is cut the video for now and come back. Okay, so we are back. It's now round 165. I decided to cut the previous recording on a rather awkward note due to the fact that a notification shortly thereafter interrupted my recording, and I could have just kept on going, but I did not want the notification to distract any of the viewers or anything like that. I don't want you to be looking at things that aren't meant to be in the video, things like that. It was just a reminder for something I need to do tonight, but it's something that is a little bit distracting and annoying, and I feel like when those things show up in my videos, it lowers the quality of them. So I just decided to cut the recording a little bit sooner because of that than I would have liked to. But round 165, as you saw just now, was very close, and so we may need to get our Buccaneer Paragon as well in the not so distant future. And although there is something I believe I forgot regarding the sub Paragon, and that's that it reduces all ability cooldowns, and I believe that happens even if the sub is not submerged. So I just wanted to point that out, because I do know that the Goliath Doom ship, I just recalled this, had its ability cooldown increased, and it's now 50 seconds instead of 45 seconds. So I believe that means that since it is the same now with the sub as it was without the sub pre-update, that does mean that the Doom ship and all other towers with abilities will have their ability cooldowns reduced by 10% with the aid of the sub Paragon. So I'm hoping that doesn't require submerging due to just submerging not being that worthwhile and dealing so little damage. But we'll have to see if someone can get to the bottom of that, because I may test that in the future, but I don't want to do that today. I'd rather just focus on enjoying the Paragon for what it is, rather than getting too caught up with technical stuff. So let's see if we can pop this bad. It looks like we cannot. The DDTs were about to escape there, so this would be a great time to get the Buccaneer Paragon, and we will see how we do with this tower, how much better we can do. So I'm going to try to use the Buccaneer Paragon as little as possible in terms of damage and all of that. So let's just get a simple degree 1. It will of course do substantial damage even at degree 1, which means that we won't really get to see how much different things are. But the buff icon is there, so the buff is working on the sub Paragon at this time. just as it works with
Clean
the Ace
cuts
Paragon,
and still cuts
because
a
it is an
tomato.
enhanced version of the carrier flagship buff that works on not just
Big,
normal
red,
towers,
and
but
spicy.
also on Paragons. So that's pretty cool to see.
Clean cuts and
And
still
I'm wondering
cuts
how
a
far we
tomato.
can make it. If we can make it to maybe, dare I say, 200. I mean, the Ace Paragon is adding a lot of DPS to our defense, even if that's not what we are trying to utilize here. But it is something that is changing the dynamics of our defense and just making it that much stronger rather than just being supportive, like a monkey village with jungle rooms or something. Not that that works on Paragons, but my point remains the same about it being both support and DPS rather than purely support. So let's continue here, and I believe that there were some other changes in the update that I would like to talk about. So unfortunately I had to cut the video again due to getting a second reminder for the same event that I have to take care of tonight. So getting back to the contents of the video, the Glaive Ricochet got a massive price decrease. So it's now like $600. Let's see, yeah, $600, and it used to be like between $1,200 and $1,500, I think. The more glaives is the same price by itself. The upgrade itself, that said, you can get a more glaives quicker now than you could before, due to the fact that the preceding upgrade is cheaper, and the more glaives was not made more expensive to compensate for that. And also the Glaive Lord now deals more DPS with its orbital glaives than before. That said, it deals the same damage now to fortified bloons as to non-fortified bloons. It's no longer it no longer deals bonus damage to fortified bloons. I believe that's what the change was. So let's go ahead and see how this round ends up going. I'm thinking of using the Final Strike ability if we get a point where there's a bad balloon or something like that that does not have extra balloons spawning after it, like it's just ending the round, and we can see how much damage it deals. So that's not the end of the round. Let's just keep a close eye on things. And now let's use it. So there's the like the pre-timing, so to speak, the like countdown to launch, so to speak, of the missile, and we did take out the bad. Granted, it wasn't enough to take out the balloons inside of it, as well, like the ZLMGs, because they didn't pop all at the same time. You could see the ZLMGs after the bad layer went down, which you would not be able to if they popped all at once. So it pops maybe 30 to 40% of a bad
Clean cuts
at
and still
like
cuts a
around
tomato.
179, 180-ish. So it's not a lot of damage, to be completely honest, but if timed well, and it can deal damage to lots of balloons on the screen instead of just one balloon, it may come in handy for situations like that. But overall, I am still liking the tower more than I have bones to pick with it. That said, I still feel like the submerging needs a significant change, and I'm not going to comment on the Final Strike ability just yet, because I don't know whether it's good or very good or not good at all just yet. So let's go ahead and keep going here. So
Clean cuts
Um,
and still cuts a tomato.
Even though I don't have to be as aggressive as I am with farming, I still do enjoy it, due to the fact that it allows us to get the towers that we want to get sooner, because even after all that money we pumped into the sub-Paragon for that high degree, not to mention the Buccaneer Paragon, even though it's only degree 1, it costs over like $600,000, including the tier 5s that we had to get leading up to it. Even now, we have almost $2 million extra that we are not going to end up using in this game. So that's cool to see, but I would not change my farming strategies even if it meant a little bit less hindrance to getting things early on in the game. I would rather just take care of things as far as financial concerns go early on and not have to worry about them later. Because if you take care of the difficult tasks first, then things will be easier later on. Whereas if you just coast early on, things will be harder later on. So that is something to take note of, both in the game and in life.
Clean cuts and still cuts a tomato.
Here. Another change in the update that I really like is the Ultra Boost. So when you get the Ultra Boost, it previously was such that when you use the Ultra Boost ability on a tier 4 tower, it would have 75% uptime. And when you used it on a tier 5 tower, it would have half uptime.
And still cuts a
meaning
tomato.
It would last that percentage of the time that it takes for the ability to recharge so that you can use it again on the same tower or a different tower. Well, now it has full uptime for tier 4 and 5 towers, like it originally did before it got that nerf. So I'm glad about that because I feel like there's not that much to set apart the overclock and the Ultra Boost other than the ability stacking, which is great, and it is a great way to set the tier 5 apart from the tier 4. That said, once everything's already been 10 times ultra boosted and it's already stacked, there's not much that you can really get out of it that you can't get from the tier 4. So I think that's a nice QOL change in part, but also leading up to getting everything stacked can also help you there so that you don't have to spend as much on other towers to help your defense. So that is cool to see. And if you want to go for something like a VTSG, it's a tier 5 tower, not a Paragon. So therefore you can buff it and you can have full uptime now, which
clean cuts and still cuts a tomato.
To this update, at least in recent BTD6 history. So we're almost to round 200, and that's where I think I'm going to end the video, is at round 200, because considering how far the beds are getting, their fortified counterparts are almost certainly going to leak, and not only are the balloons getting tankier, but they're also getting faster because of the ramping that starts to take place after round 80 and only gets crazier and crazier as time goes on. And considering those fortified DDTs got halfway through the track before being popped, that means if we pop a bed that has fortified DDTs in it at the halfway point, then they have a significant chance of leaking. So I think round 200 will be make or break for us. Either we lose on round 200, and that's that, or we beat it, but we can't get any farther because then the fortified beds will start spawning in more and more. And considering how far their non-fortified counterparts are getting, It's just a matter of time before we lose. So let's see if we can beat round 200. And yes, I know that this isn't with the sub Paragon by itself, but with it by itself, we got to the early to mid 160s, if I recall correctly, which is still not bad. But considering it's on the cheaper end of most Paragons, but we will see how we end up performing against round 200, and I am not going to use the hook-in ability, the ground takedown that the Buccaneer Paragon has, because that would be just a cheap, cheesy way to beat round 200. So let's see if we can beat it without that, and with just the raw DPS that we have, as well as the final strike ability, perhaps, to help with that. So
clean cuts and still cuts.
Let's see when this round gets close to ending, and when it does get close to ending, I'm thinking of using the final strike. That way we have a little bit of an advantage in terms of not having to wait 15 seconds from the start of the next round. So let's go ahead right about now and use that. It looks like we may be a little early, so I'm going to retry that. Let's wait for it to get down to like 20% health left, or maybe even a little bit lower than that. And then we will use it.
Clean cuts and still cuts
at this
tomato.
point, even one Paragon can't handle rounds that well or that easily. Unless you're talking about maybe a max Buccaneer Paragon or a max Doom Ship or something like that. But even then you have to pay close attention because of how crazy the ramping has gotten. So let's go ahead and wait for this to get to its final like health stage, so to speak, and we do not end up beating the Bloons there, so or popping the DDTs. So thankfully with those extra lives we do not have to worry about burning monkey money for a continue, but it's looking like we'll have to wait until round 200 starts. Or maybe we can pop the bad and the DDTs, and then from there start the final strike countdown. Let's see if that works, because if the hooking cooldown ends up running out and the passive hooking can be used again for the Buccaneer Paragon, that may work. Well, we got a 6-second head start there. Let's see how much damage this deals. So close to 250,000 right off the bat, and then the nuclear waste deals significantly more following that. But it is looking like we may not even be able to beat one. Actually, we did beat one fortified bed right there, but we will probably lose to the second, and that is where the buck will stop for this one. No pun intended, by the way, regarding the buck stops here, because we have a Buccaneer Paragon. So that pun was not intended, in case any of you thought I was trying to make a pun there. But that's going to wrap it up for today's video, you guys. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you've enjoyed. Unfortunately, Sawda's ability right there, her 3-time sword charge, will not end up saving us right there. So round 200 is where we are going to call it with support. And I think it was round 163, or no, 165, 166, because 163 was just a bunch of ceramics and leads and all that. In fact, I cut that out of this video, so maybe it was in the 170s. But yeah, and don't forget to use code Mr008 in the shop if you are planning on making any in-app purchases for this update. And that's where we are going to call things for today. Thank you all for watching once again, and I will talk to you all in the next video. Peace out.